if they don't trust the numbers, the management team has a bit of a question mark next to their names.
When the successful people are telling you something, the success is in the clues.
If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So I had to tell myself that quite a bit as a finance leader.
The simple action of having to do it, you don't realize how much information that you automatically go through. We always talk about it when we provide sales training is the sale starts at the ask.
What a fractional CFO will do is help you grow your business, so maximize your growth and minimize your risk.
Welcome to the podcast From Cold to Close. My name is Saeed and I'm the founder here at SRC Growth Partner, a growth company that helps professional services firms from around the world increase their revenue and profitability by acquiring new clients. My guest today is Alysha Randall, founder of Fast Growth Consulting, a fractional CFO firm that specializes in working with startups and scale-ups. Alysha has built her practice around a unique approach. Her entire team consists of experienced working mothers who bring both financial expertise and operational efficiency to early-stage companies. She's also the author of a book focused on training aspiring CFOs for the startup world. What makes Alysha's work particularly interesting is that she's developed a framework that helps founders navigate two critical challenges: preparing for fundraising and building the right finance team at the right time. Her clients typically come to her for one of two reasons. They're looking to raise capital or they're completely lost with their current financial situation. Alysha, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
No worries at all. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I always love talking to fractional CFOs, primarily because your outlook towards business is slightly different to what an accountant's outlook towards business might be. And so it's always an interesting conversation because you are numbers people, but you're numbers people for the future. That's how I look at it, right?
Yeah.
But before we jump into that, all the fun stuff, could you share a little bit more about yourself for the viewers and listeners out there that may not know who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I've been working with startups and scale-ups for nearly 20 years now, so a long time, ever since I arrived in London. So I think I'm stuck with this accent. And I kind of fell into it, actually. So, my experience back in Australia is much more large corporates. I started working for a company called Love Film. I don't know if you remember them, but probably not. You're probably too young. But they were really innovative at the time because they were competing against Blockbuster and they were sending DVDs through the post, which sounds archaic now, but back then it was like, wow, this is really cool. And anyways, and then Love Film built the digital platform that Amazon purchased. So I went through an exit there where Amazon bought Love Film for that's what the original Prime actually was built on, was the Love Film digital platform. So that was an experience going through an Amazon acquisition. You can imagine what the due diligence was like, and then working for Amazon for 18 months. So again, maybe for another podcast. And then I wanted to go back to the startup world. So because of the connections I had made, went to Funding Circle, which again was brand new, wasn't yet FCA regulated. Peer-to-peer lending was very new kid on the block. So had to learn about the FCA very quickly, how to get regulated, which was interesting. And then obviously another exit. So very, very successful business there, London Stock Exchange IPO. So worked as part of the team on that. And so after those two exits, then decided to kind of go on my own because I like that early stage craziness of the startup world.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting to hear that because you're clearly very well versed in the that early stage startup kind of environment and organizations or companies that have exited. There's a level of scale up there. There's a level of transition. Just from your experiences there, it sounds like you've experienced in a short period of time what others would be looking to experience in a lifetime. The insights that you can provide, I'm really looking forward to just digging a little bit deeper into that. And also Love Film. I feel like it rings a bell, but I'm not 100%. Yeah. But before we jump in, talk to me more about Fast Growth Consulting.
Yeah.
Built that. You went from corporate and going into exits and working for Amazon and now moving on to starting your own business and working with early stage
Yeah.
startups. Can you walk us through the journey and what drove you to specialize in fractional CFO?
Yeah. I mean, again, I did kind of fall into it. So, I started Fast Growth in 2019, so not the end of 2019, so not the best time to start. So thankfully survived that disaster. But I think because, you kind of alluded to that, but being a working mother, I wanted that flexibility, and pre-COVID, you didn't have that. See, now it's a bit easier with a lot of employers offering hybrid working, but I did want to have that flexibility. And so someone kind of suggested, well, actually, it was a friend of mine who was a fractional HR director. And so I kind of saw what she was doing. I thought, oh, maybe I could do that for finance director, CFO kind of role. So she actually gave me the first role for someone that she was working with. And then a recruiter gave me another one. I just kind of had those two clients for 12 months. And then over time, then I got another client and then thought, oh, I might need a financial controller. So I got a contractor who was also a mother and looking for flexibility, and just kind of started building organically from that. And then probably in the last 2 years, I was like, okay, now I need to, like I encourage all the founders we work with, I need to actually professionalize this a bit more and not just kind of wing it day to day.
Practicing what you preach, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Your specialty, and you specialize in fundraising preparation for startups. Talk to us more about what that is for any startups out there that might be like, I need to fundraise, or I've never thought about fundraising. What does that entail?
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, preparing for a fundraise is very similar to preparing for professionalizing your outfit. It is, often when we start with a founder, they might have, say, a bookkeeper who keeps the lights on and does the invoicing and the payroll and year end, and that's about it. And often, particularly if the founder's quite good with a spreadsheet, you might find that the founder is actually doing a lot of the CFO work, and depending on their skills, they're either doing it well or not. But so preparing it is, there's a few things. It's preparing for a due diligence. So often a Series A now onwards will do a financial due diligence, and preparing the finances in a way that you're helping to sell the business, so to speak. So the founder's very good generally at the commercial story. This is why we're an interesting company to look at. This is our future. This is what we're thinking. This is the power of us. But you need the finances to tell exactly the same story, and you need them to be aligned. And having that where your P&L isn't just all of the account codes in alphabetical order, they're actually, that zero spits out. It's actually an interesting P&L and tells you the story. That takes a bit of work. There's a lot of those kind of things. And the due diligence, I feel, is also really important. We have done some due diligence for very small VC firms, and we've come in and the finances is all over the place. And unfortunately, it can affect your deal or it can affect your valuation. And so it's really important for founders to make sure that they have a really strong data room and they can pass the due diligence with flying colors, because they will get that trust and the confidence from an investor. The investors are investing in how big your market share, your product, and how strong your management team is. And if they don't trust the numbers, the management team has a bit of a question mark next to their name. So I think it's really important to get those things right.
It's all well and good selling the story and selling the vision, but if the numbers don't back up the story and the vision, you're never going to get the funding that you're looking for,
That's right.
that you're looking to raise.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense, which proves that the role of a CFO, fractional CFO, is integral to any kind of startup that's looking to scale and kind
100%.
of and grow. In your own opinion, then, what is the difference between a fractional CFO and an accountant or an accounting firm, an outsourced accounting firm that you bring into the organization?
Yeah. I mean, an accounting firm generally, and it's not always the case, but in general, they will do all the bookkeeping so that they're keeping the lights on piece, and the compliance. And the compliance is your VAT returns, your year-end returns, the things that HMRC and Companies House require you to do. That's generally what an accounting firm will do. What a fractional CFO will do is help you grow your business, so maximize your growth and minimize your risk. Usually the fractional CFO is the only one thinking about risk, that and the board, but that is kind of the fractional CFO's role. Is it's not the backwards looking stuff. It's okay, we're taking the stuff that's backwards looking. How can we use that to grow your business? What's working? What's not working? Do we need to pivot? What are the trends looking at? What can you afford? What's your cash runway? Cash runway is usually the first question founders ask. What do we need to do to grow this business? I think is where a fractional CFO can really help. Often also, but depending on the strength of your leadership team, you may have a young leadership team who's brilliant operators, but not necessarily overly strategic. So if you're quite a young company, having a fractional CFO who should be quite strategic, you can have them as a sounding board, as somebody that you kind of spar with, thinking about the strategy of the business. You're not just having to rely on your advisors on the board.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense as well, because you need someone to be looking at strategy with the guys without the rose tinted glasses, right? Without the we've got millions and millions here or hundreds of thousands here, and we can do whatever we want. There's cash runways to think about. There's budgets. There's allocations of resource. There's so many other elements that need to be considered. So for that other segment of your typical client base, where they come in and they're really just looking for someone to help them build out, have the right finance team at the right time for their business. What exactly are the biggest challenges that they're facing that you come in to eradicate?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little similar. But it's often they don't trust the numbers as well. And sometimes it's as simple as they're using cash accounting. And so they don't really know how much profit they're making. They don't know which products are profitable. They don't know what's working, what's not working. They don't know if they decide to hire 5 more people in the sales team, what's that's going to do to their cash flow. We do find once a company has raised quite a bit of money, as you quite rightly pointed out, that resource allocation can be really tricky. Okay, yeah, great, you've raised a couple of million, but you can spend that so fast, it's not funny. So it's not about being, a police person and saying, no, you can't spend that. It's more saying, what is the best use of this money? Where do we really want to put this to grow this business and meet kind of your strategic goals? What's the best, most efficient way to meet your strategic goals? So it's more helping the business make those right commercial decisions rather than just holding the purse strings, really. So
following on from that, when would the best time be for a startup to consider actually bringing in a fractional CFO? Because obviously different businesses are in different situations. When's the best time?
So I have done some advisory work right from the get-go. So we've had a couple of clients where we just help them build a model for the F&F fundraising, the friends and family fundraising at the beginning, and then we step away and let them get on with it. It depends also at that level of how quickly they find product market fit. Really, the first thing a founder should be thinking of at the early stage is we need to get product market fit. Sometimes, depending on the industry, you can get that quite quickly within 12 months, and great, then maybe bring someone on to help you with that. Sometimes in some industries like med tech, early stage fintech, biotech, to get product market fit is going to take years. So actually they probably need somebody in before they reach product market fit. So it's a time when you start growing, when you need to fundraise, when you need to be careful with your cash flows, whether it's someone like me for a day a month just to do a bit of advisory, or it's somebody like me for a day a week. Getting that kind of finance leadership can help at all stages of the business. It also depends on how good the founder's finance understanding is as well.
It's always funny when I hear that, because as an entrepreneur myself, it's like you want to tackle the world and you want to do everything, but like the finances always come into question. You have to be thinking about the business and but very rarely do you come across, and from my own experience, an entrepreneur that's going, I'm really good with the numbers. It's like, I'm good for this way. So it's always important to have the right people on your team, essentially, that can rein you in when it needs to be, let you loose when you need to be, and give you that permission to be and do what you're good at doing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, fintech's probably the only area where the CEO might know better than me.
Yeah, of
But
course.
interestingly, I was at Ideas Fest last week, and I went to quite a few talks where that you had founders who had exited multiple businesses, and I was quite happy to see one of their first recommendations was to get a CFO in as soon as possible. I was like, yes, I need to record this.
When the successful people are telling you something, success is in the clues. That's the clues, isn't it? But yeah,
totally.
So I want to talk to you about your journey to building your team. And you are now at a stage where you're not a solo shop or anything like that. You are very much building a team, and there's fractional CFOs out there that are very much one shop.
Most are.
Exactly. So you're building a team. Talk to me more about your journey to building a team and what are the biggest challenges that have arisen with building out a team.
Where do I start? I think, the first hire was the easy one because I was a financial controller, which is, a couple of levels down. And they were ideally doing the work that I don't want to do. Because most founders need a financial controller to start with, not just a CFO. So, and she's better at it than I am. So that was quite an easy one. And then I just found that, the workload was getting to the point where it was becoming too much. And so the second hire was just because I needed someone to help me at that CFO level. And so but having just the three of us, that was quite easy. And I had the three of us for a while. It's only really been this year that I've hired another three. So I kind of doubled overnight. And so this year.
That's really fun.
So I think it was because, when you're managing directly and quite closely, it's super easy to just, manage people. But when you start hiring people that they have to then manage and you're not micromanaging, not micromanaging, you have that heavy oversight. I think the biggest mistakes I've been making is assuming people know what you're talking about and assuming that people know how you want it to look when why on earth would they know that? They never worked with me before. And, the CFO I hired this year is new to the fractional world. She's an incredible CFO, but she's new to fractional. And so, yeah, now I'm rectifying those errors, but, I made way too many assumptions. So now I'm backpedaling and doing training. And I think also the reason why, going sideways slightly, but I think the reason why I wanted to have a bigger team is the thing that I love about my job is problem solving and making quick decisions and teaching people. This is probably why I wrote the book and I have courses on the side. That's a bit that I'm enjoying. Usually when you enjoy something, that's a bit you're good at. Whereas, sitting there building a budget model, I mean, I've done it 1 million times. I can do it 1 million times again, but if I never have to do it again, fine. So, I'm actually enjoying this transition almost from part-time fractional CFO to founder, really, because I'm also learning again. When we're going with the clients, 75% of what we're implementing or doing, I've done 1 million times before. So now it's quite fun kind of building or further building that framework that we implement with clients so that we can replicate it slicker and faster and more efficiently and grow. So yeah, that's been a real interesting journey this year, that's for sure.
That's the fun part about business. If you get through the early stages of the difficulties and those early hires, you're absolutely right. It's like enjoying the element of learning new things all over again. And it's like new things that are just like, it's exciting. Business, it is exciting. It's hard and there's a lot of monotony involved. There's a lot of the same things over and over again. But when you get something new, it is exciting. It sounds like you've created a management team now that can handle the day-to-day so that you can transition into working on the business rather than in the business.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That was a catchphrase that I wrote in my book from Ideas Fest last week.
I've read your book already. That's fine. Yeah, no, I love it. So before we jump into the next section, what's your take on the current startup funding landscape? Any oncoming trends, anything, any insights that you can share with us?
I don't know. It certainly has picked up a little bit. Last year was brutal. 2021 was amazing. And I think we all hoped that 2021 fundraising would continue. And then it kind of fell off a cliff. So it's definitely come back, and potentially some say it's come more to an equilibrium. 2021 was so much funding and outrageous valuations. Then it died, and now we've kind of, come back to where we should be. I would say, that is certainly the case, unless, of course, you're in a hot industry. I think if you're in a hot industry, you're always going to have that benefit. And AI is obviously one of them. I think what's interesting is what investors expect as well has changed somewhat, that especially European investors, they're much more risk averse. In the US, you can probably just about get away with a hockey stick growth, but in the UK, it is very much, when are you going to break even? What's your worst case scenario? It is, we're doing a due diligence at Series A. It has very much changed. So, our founders definitely have to be more ready for those more risk averse type questions and prepare for worst case scenario questions, prepare for when they're going to break even, all those sort of things. Even with really experienced founders, they're also finding that, they have to kind of prove themselves a little bit with the finances, particularly with the current climate. So it's definitely harder than it was, than comparing to 21, but not as hard as last year. So we'll see what comes over the next 12 months.
I think it's interesting you mentioned the difference in attitudes within the two markets, whether that's US and UK, and the hockey stick growth versus what you almost having to justify what you're doing. So it's just, I thought, an interesting insight that you provided there, in the sense that the UK market is very much a case where there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And so being able to forecast what you're going to be able to do, how you're going to be getting yourself out of it is a key element to being able to fundraise in general. So in this section of the podcast, we like to call the Entrepreneur's Room. And that's a series of questions we like to ask all of our guests to give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to understand how business owners think and operate when running their business. At this stage of the podcast, I'd like to ask the same question, which is, how are you currently spending your days as a leader of the business?
How I'd like to be, or how I am? Yeah, actually, for me, as I kind of mentioned a couple of times already, so obviously made an impact. I was at the Ideas Fest last week. And I think because, a lot of the kind of conferences and things I've gone to are very accounting focused and CFO focused. I mean, I am going to an accounting conference next week in Manchester, but this is probably the first one where I've actually gone to a founders one. And so I have so many takeaways from that, which is amazing. So for me, the biggest thing is continuing. At the moment, I'm starting to put together basically my playbook. So I'm taking the playbook out of my head and into like recording videos, templates, policies, procedures, those kind of things, so that my team has that playbook ready to go. And also communicating that with the founders or new founders that we started working with as well. So yeah, that's probably the next 3 months.
That in itself is, I've been through it myself in building out the SOPs and the recording of the videos and making sure there's standard practices that everyone takes. Yeah. And it's like, when the simple action of having to do it, you don't realize how much information that you automatically go through. And so when you're doing it, you're breaking it down like, oh, but I probably should add this bit in, and then I should add. And then you're like, oh my God, this is extensive. Who's going to read all of this or go through all of this? It's like, okay, yeah.
Totally. And also, I like the fact that I'm talking, like I'm recording it, because I think if I wrote it down, I'd probably miss all the detail. But being able to record video, you're right. I could just go off on like for 10 minutes just for something simple. And you're like, gosh, there's so much knowledge that I just assume everyone has. And when people watch it, they're like, gosh, I had no idea, And so, yeah, it's an interesting exercise I'm finding so far, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to ask this question to fractional CFOs, primarily because you know more about it than most other founders and business owners. But what are the most important metrics for you when running the business?
So I'm not going to give you a list of KPIs. It's going to be annoying for you, but this is how I think about it.
Sure.
So every business should have, like, say, 3 to 5 strategic goals. So the big things that they want to achieve over the next 12 to 36 months. In order to achieve those, you'll have your operational goals. So these are the stepping stones that we need to do in order to get to that big picture thing. And each of those tasks should be measured by a KPI or a metric. Actually, you have your North Star and you have maybe your top 5, which may be volume-based, customer quality-based, revenue driving-based. And then the KPIs that should change sometimes on a quarterly basis and you should be looking at are the ones that tell you if you're going to achieve those operational goals and therefore your strategic goal or not. So that's how I think about it. Generally, your strategic goals are your North Star and your big goals that you track at all times. On top of that, it'll be cash runway and cash burn because cash is king at early stage. Cash is way more important than your P&L.
Yeah.
100%.
Love it. Love it. And in terms of then talking about your business, how are you currently growing the business? What kind of sales and marketing, business development activities are you doing to grow the business?
Yeah. What I try to do is add value first if I can. I think also, particularly with first-time founders, they perhaps don't necessarily understand the benefits that we provide. So I'm doing monthly workshops. We have some downloadable resources. We have a 10-question quiz that founders can answer in 3 minutes. It says, "Are you investor ready?" And they're just like a yes, no, and it'll tell you. And then there's resources that come off the back of that. LinkedIn's obviously a big one for us because it's B2B. So yeah, it's trying to demonstrate our value and trying to highlight the things that we can help founders with, and then hopefully have a conversation.
I absolutely love that. And I love that approach primarily because we're very big on it. And we all our clients, we tell them value first, especially in today's market where you've got lots of content and lots of people and LinkedIn, social media and whatnot. You got a lot of competitors at the end of the day. You got a lot of faces. You've got markets are saturated. Everyone you're competing with hundreds and thousands of other fractional CFOs for business, right? And so often times in which you are able to provide value first, you really enter the conversation with open arms, right? And you're able to demonstrate to them without any actual blowback on the prospect or the lead or whoever it might be or the audience. And from there, that can garner good grace and overall value, which then can turn into a future.
Yeah, totally. I love having 15, 30-minute conversations with a brand new founder and able to give them a couple of takeaways. And if I never hear from them again, fine. But when they're like, "Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I can do," it's like, yeah, that's why I do it. And maybe they'll come back 6 months later, or maybe they won't. But yeah, having those conversations, I enjoy it. And again, that on the spot problem solving is where my skill is. Being able to do that is it's fun.
It's great because we always talk about 2 things that you need to be focusing on when you bring in new clients or close new clients, and that is trust and relationships. Trust is built with credibility, authority, and that type of stuff. In those moments there, if you're having a 15-minute conversation and someone's light bulb goes off, they go away leaving there going, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. And then the relationship part is just genuinely being a decent enough person to build a relationship with someone else. And that's a skill in itself, right?
Yeah.
And if you're able to do that, that paves a great path for you. I know that you've had a career for 20 plus years. You've run your business for many, many years now. And you've probably, as you touched on earlier, experienced lots of challenges along the way. Are the biggest lessons you could share with us today from your journey?
There's probably 2. The first one is I keep learning it in my career, which means I haven't learned it yet and I have to maybe I need a post-it note on my, is to never assume, which I think comes down to communication, but it's, I can talk to anyone all the time, but sometimes you assume that people know something or understand something, or they'll hear it from somewhere else. I think remembering to never assume, I think, is really important. And again, I'm still learning this myself. So that's a big one for me. The big learning, though, actually, again, as a new founder, but also I think as a female lead, I think it's something is very generalization, but women sometimes don't do this as well as men do, is if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So I had to tell myself that quite a bit as a finance leader in the corporate world. So, and I probably don't need to anymore because I just asked, but like when I was probably less experienced, that was a big one for me. I had to kind of say it to myself over and over again and then hit enter, on an email.
I love it. Love it. Those are two absolute golden nuggets. I think people can really take away from first the assumption element. It's so true. And it's when we're stuck in our busy days or stuck with lots of things on our mind, or as leaders, we have a lot of things on our mind. We can be scatterbrained sometimes. There can be pressure situations. It's easy to assume. And it's that saying, if you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Right. And it's true, because no one wins in that situation of assumption, right? Someone will leave thinking one thing, you leave thinking another, you come back and you have to do it all over again. It's not fun. But asking, if you don't ask, it's always going to be no. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's 100% something that I live by as well. And we always talk about it when we provide sales training, is the sale starts at the ask, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you ask, that's when the sale actually starts. Everything before that is just conversation. When you've asked, that's where the sale starts and the objections come in.
Totally. Yeah. I don't know how many times I've heard stories of really big founders or well-known founders where the start of their journey is, I knocked on 100 doors. I had to ask 600 people and I finally got one. And exactly. I find that really interesting, that you're more likely to get a no, but you might get a yes. So it's really...
You only need a handful of yeses to have a strong business or strong whatever you want to do. So there you go. Alysha, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I like to end every single episode with the same question. And that is, if you had a magic wand you could wave to solve one business problem, what would that be?
So mine, can I clone myself?
Come on, yeah.
Yeah, I would want to clone myself. I actually, on that, maybe then it is again another takeaway I got from last week, is I need to work out where I'm a key problem, where things can't get done unless there's me, when I'm like the problem, the blocker, essentially. The bottleneck. I was trying to think of this. Yeah, I couldn't think. Yeah, so when I'm the bottleneck, and just like being able to make sure that I'm not the bottleneck and I am doing what I should be doing. So I think at the moment I'm still probably doing too much. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest, because if I can fix that, then everything else kind of falls a bit more in place. So yeah.
Alysha, you've shared some fantastic insights. You've been a phenomenal guest. Thank you so much for your time today. For all those out there that want to reach out to you, where would they go? How would they find you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Alysha Randall, or our website is fastgrowthconsulting.com.
Amazing. Thank you again.
Thanks so much for having me. Cheers.